Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Trek YT here, or Nick, back at it again with another brand new video. And in today's video, this is going to be sort of a tip/tutorial video on how to build floating islands. As we are building a floating island on Sky Regions right now, I thought this would be a great video for the people that may actually want to take some inspiration from what I'm doing. And then I'm also just going to give a couple of extra tips of exactly how I go about building different types of floating islands. So one of the things that you guys have to realize is that floating islands are all built by, I guess, different ways. So like certain people build them in different ways. So I'm going to go ahead and showcase a couple of those ideas now. So my first type of floating island, in my opinion, is the one that really comes down to a point. So your more iconic floating island, the one that you really think of like that's a floating island. So when you're looking at floating islands, you can see these all across several billion Minecraft servers. Like everywhere you go, good builders always tend to go towards this way of building a floating island, and it comes down to a point. And now this is probably the easier way of the two ways of doing it, but this is basically bringing the whole island to come down to one central point, or if it's a larger island, down to several points. But it's a more sharper peak that it comes down to instead of a rounder one. And that brings us on to our next one, which is sort of on like larger Minecraft servers, people that use a lot more World Edit and Voxel Sniper to build their large things. You can really tell that it's not necessarily built by hand, but that is more of a rounded edge. Now this is the one that I'm actually building on the Sky Region server right now, and it's basically where it comes down to a bunch of little domes at the bottom instead of to a really sharp peak. So this is, I guess, our other way of building a floating island. Both of them work absolutely amazing, and they both look really great. So I think what we're going to do is jump into, I guess, a little tutorial on how to build each of these two things. So without further ado, guys, let's jump right into this. So first things off, when you're going to do the building the peak sort of one that comes down to a sharp peak, is you're really going to want to start at a central point at the bottom. Find your bottom point and find out how much you want your bottom peak to go from your top part. Now, it looks a lot better if it's sort of a gradual incline rather than a steep just randomly jutting out, but either way works. So you really want to start with that one peak. Then you want to go ahead and build out and build your circle. Build your top part. Make yourself a template of where you want to bring from the point all the way up to the top, because you're sort of making like a sort of a cone shape. So that's what you're really going for. So once you do that, you should really go ahead and just sort of outline 4 main points where it goes up from the center. So that's really easy when you just go off the sides of one of the bottom blocks at the bottom. Just go off on all 4 sides. Kind of, I guess, make your arc that goes all the way up to the very top ring. Outline that for yourself so that way you can go back in and just fill in the rest of the quarters, as you can see what I'm doing right now. Now, for doing the top of the island, it's very sort of simple. It's really about kind of just making a flat top to it with also giving just a little slight variation. Now, you can do this however you want. It doesn't really matter how you want the peak of your island to go. It's really about what works for you. So what I like to do is I try to like to keep it slightly flat, but have like at least 1 block or 2 block variation in my elevation. Now this is just one really thing that I like to do. It just makes the build look a lot more interesting. So what I did is on the very edges of the ring, I try to add like 1 block lower than the block above that. So that way the flat surface just shows a little bit more deviation in the actual ground. And then I went ahead and I actually decided to, I guess, texturize the entire island itself. So all the stone part, I added some cobblestone and some andesite in there. Now what I'm doing is I'm throwing a tree on top, a little custom tree, pretty simple. As you can see, I like to use the cheat way of doing custom trees. Basically what I do is I guess grow a tree and then I transform it afterward. That way I can get my blocks down a lot easier. Now moving on to our second one, I decided to just copy and paste the top section of the previous island onto the other one, just so I can show you guys the differences in the actual build of the bottom part of the island. So this is the more rounded one. So what I like to do for this one is I like to try to do several different variations in height, but basically what I do is I build down straight from the center of, I guess, one of the little domes that I'm going to put on. I build all the way down, build a little circle, and that is my sort of like outlining feature of where I'm going to build up my arcs on the side. So it has the same principle where I just build up blocks on the side, try to sort of keep it in like, basically what I do when I'm building up these arcs on the side is I outline my thing and then I build almost like little V's. As you can see, there's a lot of little V's in there, but they stack on top of each other in different layers. so that way they create this effect of a rounded object or something like that. And basically what I do is I do several of those things where I build down center, make a little like maybe like 4 by or like a radius of 2 circle or so, and then I do my little V shapes on the sides, and that's basically how I do it. It's really about playing with the blocks. As you can see, I touch up so many different blocks over and over again until I find the perfect, I guess, look, in my opinion, that looks the best. So that's basically how I do that. So I hope this video was helpful for you guys. As you guys can see, we do have the peaked one on the left and our rounded one on the right. You can really see the difference, but you can see that if you cover up one, like if I just look at that one looks great, and if I just look at that one looks great as well. So it's all about preference. If I would say probably the one on the left is more of the beginner one. It's a lot easier, but it still looks just as good. I think the one on the right is a lot more advanced. I mean, if you're doing it by hand, it's a lot more advanced. If you're using cylinders and spheres and I guess rounded shapes from like Voxel Sniper or World Edit, I guess you could say it's a little less advanced, but I think that both of them look equally great, and I hope that this gave you guys inspiration on how exactly to do it. So just I guess recapping, I guess my tips for this is for the one on the left, find your central point, build up some, I guess, arches, basically outlining what you want to fill in, then go back and fill it in. Remember the V-shape, I guess arcs or something, really layering those is really how you build up your island, and it's really about placing blocks, playing with it. It's a lot easier to do this when you have creative, but everything I did in this can be done with scaffolding and survival and stuff like that. So don't be afraid to tackle a new challenge. And again, on the one on the right, basically what I do is I build a little, I guess, circle, not too big, depending on the scale of my island. Then I go ahead and I do the 4 up thing, like the 4 arcs on the side. Then I go back and fill it in. So both of them are pretty simple if you really just start to play with it. Building isn't too hard once you actually just go ahead and do it. You really just got to go out there, play with the blocks, and learn it. So I hope you guys were able to take away some tips from this video. And as always, guys, I love you all. See you guys later. Peace out.